Hi. Um, what's up? So I've been wanting to make this video for a little while now on some experiences that I've had recently. Um, First off, dirty sweatshirt, no makeup, hair's a mess, dog sitting for my parents this weekend. Um, so my life has been temporarily uprooted. Um, but this experience that I had recently, so it's been hard for me to even wrap my head around it. As some people may know, which is why you may be watching this video to begin with, I've had some recent experiences with sleep paralysis. And for those of you who don't know what sleep paralysis is, it's something that happens in between a sleeping state and a waking state, where you feel as if you're being physically attacked. Could be pinned down. You may be kicking and screaming, although not in your actual body. So it's a very odd experience. It's very weird. It's terrifying, actually. And one of the things that I've recently come to understand about it is that, so if we look at reality versus in terms of a waking state and a sleeping state. So we have waking state over here, sleeping state over here. And sleeping state is very much an altered reality. So the things that happen there are more likely to be odd, more likely to be unrealistic, things like that. A waking state is our everyday, our personal reality. And what I think is in between a waking state and a dreaming state, you enter a sort of susceptible place where you're susceptible to things that don't necessarily go in line with the normal reality. So, spiritual things from different realms, the spirit world, if you will. And so what I believe, or what I've come to understand over the last little bit of really trying to wrap my head around all of this and get a better understanding of what was happening to me, was that because the nature of sleep paralysis is you wake up, you are aware that you are awake. You enter a state where you're falling in and out of sleep. You're like, oh God, and you keep waking up, you keep falling back asleep, you keep waking up, you keep falling back asleep. And eventually what happens is, while you are in that state, while you're in the falling asleep state, it is my belief that something literally attacks you. Some sort of malevolent force. And what we see across, I probably should have pulled up some research on this before I just start. Like, if it's not right, it's going to seem like I made some stuff up, so just take it with a grain of salt. It might not be completely perfect. But there are artist renderings from a time like pre-internet, pre-telephone, they did have like boat travels. I'm not going to say pre-boat, but at a time when people in different countries couldn't communicate with each other the way that we do, like real-time communication, right? And people were drawing and painting pictures of this creature that I might actually be able to pull it up. This creature that comes and physically sits on their chest. And this is sort of the main idea behind sleep paralysis. That's really what it feels like, is that something is sitting on your chest. And like you can't move, you can't, oh god, these pictures actually really creep me out. I'm not into it. I'm really not into it. Hopefully, like, talking about this at like 9:30 at night isn't gonna have any adverse effects on my sleep tonight, but we already started, so let's power through. So it's this kind of, see how you can see that? And there are various renderings of this little guy here, who comes and sits on people's chests. Yeah, I just looked over there because I'm already getting creeped out. Who comes and sits, he comes and sits on people's chests. And basically, so one of the experiences that I just had, which was the most violent and the scariest, really, was what it was. The other ones are so scary, but it was that initial one that I had, the first one I'd had in like 12 years, that really frightened me. So basically what happened was I woke up, it was 3 a.m. It was exactly 3 a.m. And for the next couple weeks after this initial attack, I kept waking up exactly at 3 a.m., like every night. For those of you who don't know, 3 a.m. is considered the witching hour. It's the most powerful hour in spiritual activity. Many rituals and things would happen during the witching hour, and probably still do. I'm not a witch. I don't know this. But you got to assume that if it was the witching hour, it still is the witching hour. And this thought passed through my head as it got closer and closer to 333. 333 is like half of 666. So it's said that 333 is the most powerful time in the witching hour. And as the clock turned to 3:33, I drifted in and out of sleep. I went under, and all of a sudden I was being attacked. Something was sitting on my chest. It was pitch black, I couldn't see. I was kicking and screaming. And I think one of the most terrifying elements of the whole thing is that you're kicking and screaming. But nothing's coming out. Nothing. You can't vocalize anything. And often it feels like you're struggling to actually move your limbs. So it's the feeling of terror, wanting to kick and scream, but nothing's coming out. Hi, Eeyore. Come here, sweet pie. Hold on 1 second. Oh, this is the little terror that I'm babysitting. Say hi, Eeyore. Say hi, hi. Say hi, hi. Oh, yes. Yes. What was I saying? Oh, and I had an interaction with, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that it was a demon. I don't know this to be true, but I awoke out of this sleep paralysis state, um, although not actually awake, still in the dream part. And there was a man in a trench coat sitting at the end of my bed. He had sort of like that, like almost a skeleton, like very gaunt, like heroin chic, if you will. But like, but like more than that. Like it was very apparent that um, he was not of this world, this realm. Um, and I can't remember what we talked about. Um, but he told me his name. We talked about some stuff. I assume that what we were talking about was that he was gonna call the creature back. He wanted to call the creature back, and he kept threatening to call the creature back so that I would like submit to him in like a sexual way. And for those who, many people don't know this, but there are people who claim that you can actually have like spiritual sex, so like sex with a non-physical form. And even if you have sex with someone who is like a tangible person, right? There are exchanges of energies that happen, which is why actually sex addiction can be so damaging. Not only are you like messing up the reward centers of your brain, but you're exchanging energies with people who you may not want to pick up the energies that they're putting down. Yeah, I'm gonna put this guy down. She's heavy. And this was like a couple days before I was scheduled to do a San Pedro ceremony. And I definitely picked up something from that experience. I felt it. Like, I felt it. And I ended up having to do like a pretty heavy purge for. As plant medicines go, San Pedro is a medicine that you don't necessarily purge a lot on. Unlike ayahuasca or something like that, where like if you're me, you're basically like flowing out both ends. That's been like every ayahuasca experience I've ever had is just like, yeah, it's not pretty. Ayahuasca is not for the faint of heart. But it's not something you necessarily purge a lot on. And I had a very heavy purge that day. It was like I just couldn't get it up. It was like dragging and dragging, and it was painful and miserable and all these sort of things. But yeah, so I think we covered all the bases just there. Sleep paralysis is a spiritual attack. You are most susceptible when you are traveling between the waking world and the dream world. That is why you wake up first. So one of the things that I really believe is that like an energy comes to you and finds a way to wake you. What are you doing, Eeyore? I don't know what the dog's doing. She keeps freaking me out walking around. Is that an energy comes into your space and finds a way to wake you. because every experience that I've had with this sort of thing is that there's no, like, the cat didn't come over and, like, lay too close to me. A bus didn't drive by and my window was open. Um, you know, nothing happened to have awoken me. So it's my belief that something comes into your space and finds a way to wake you, so that it can prey on you during the process between your waking and your dreaming. Now this all sounds really weird. I can get that, because I used to be like a non-believer in all this sort of stuff, and people would tell me this stuff, and I'd be like, that is so weird, and I don't believe it. Um, but I do believe it now. Um, so you can call me crazy, you can not believe what I'm saying, um, but if this ever happens to you, you can always come and talk to me. Since opening up about a lot of this stuff, that's been happening to me during my spiritual awakening, a lot of people have actually come to me for support. I can't always give advice because I'm going through this with you in most cases. But what I can offer is support while you are going through it. While I'm going through it, let's go through it together. Let's do this. Let's be woke AF. Okay? Like let's do it. Nobody wants to do it alone. So please, if you're going through this, reach out to me. Reach out to me. Facebook. Instagram is probably the best way to get at me. Race to Wonderland. Race to Wonderland on all the platforms. Yeah, I hope someone at least found this interesting. Um, it really helps me to vocalize all this stuff, whether or not someone actually watches it. So until next time, have a good night.